know. I think I'm switching over to Andrew's boat. Maybe like we're living too long.
See?
Yeah, I should also duck out at like 70.
What number are you liking? I change all the time. I'm thinking
Maybe
72 right now.
I was going to say somewhere in the 70s, maybe. Like, what's the point of living to like 100?
Welcome to Millennial, the home of pretend adulting and real talk with your pals. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Pamela.
We wanted to share some recent listener feedback that slid into our DMs. First of all, Pam, welcome back. And we talked about third spaces last week, which actually you helped us plan that discussion, even though you couldn't make the episode. And our listener, Eileen, said, currently listening to the episode, Barnes & Noble can definitely be a third space. Back in the late 90s, a friend referred to the cafe section of our local BN as Club Barnes. It was hopping in there. That's some good anecdotal evidence, because I've never walked into the Barnes & Noble cafe and thought it was hopping in there. But
me neither. But I had thought that about Borders at the time. Like, Borders just always felt a little younger, a little cooler. I don't know.
It's funny, because I never really saw a difference. I preferred Borders myself. Maybe I just didn't really think about it too much. I was like subconsciously thinking it was cooler. And then also just wanted to thank listeners for their recent reviews on Apple Podcasts. Les's mistress, not sure exactly what that means, said, I love the show. It's bubbly and chatty while also discussing news, politics, and pop culture. The product recommendations are interesting too. Keep up the good work, Andrew, Laura, and Pam. Thank you, Les's mistress.
Thanks so much, mistress.
Any idea who is that? A fictional character, Les?
I am not aware of Les being a member of the Book Boyfriend Club, but Pam, you might be more plugged in than I am. Do you know who Les is?
I do not.
So there's a Les in Newsies. There's a Les in the Bring It On film series. Maybe. There's also a Les in Coronation Street. So those are three options, maybe.
Or is it French, like Les Mis?
That was what I was thinking too, but
Yeah.
I can't. Whatever.
The mistresses.
Anyway, no matter what your name means, we appreciate the review. And then another interesting name choice, Fistagon. Is that like a Digimon or something?
It's a Digimon that does something, apparently.
Yeah, they're fisting the show. They said can't listen anymore due to unlimited ignorance, and I don't even like Trump.
Ooh,
and their
nice.
review's title was TDS, so I'm wondering if they accidentally meant to leave this review for The Daily Show. TDS, The Daily Show.
I would be super flattered by that, but I'm guessing not. I'm
Okay.
just really taken by this unlimited ignorance.
I know. What was the ignorance about specifically? It must
I wonder
have had
what
something
the
to do
last
with
straw
Trump.
was.
I mean, if
Yeah.
it's unlimited,
Yeah.
there's a lot of it. If that's truly the case, I'm impressed. Good job, guys.
Fistagon, please let us know what exactly we said that broke the camel's back.
Oh, but they won't be able to because they've stopped listening, supposedly.
Allegedly. That's how it goes. They claim they're not going to listen anymore.
It's
Then
so
they just
true.
can't quit us. They
wanna
keep on
know-
fisting.
You want to know my favorite? I keep on fisting. You want to know my favorite? So, we occasionally will have an individual, or maybe sometimes a couple of people, who really want to announce their departure from our show's audience, like multiple times over the span of several months. So we had someone who left our Facebook group in this way. But this person has carried on commenting on our socials and actually just commented on one of our YouTube videos a couple of weeks ago, being like, oh, so obnoxious. I'm glad I don't listen anymore. And I was
God.
Are you
And
sure?
yet you're engaging.
I wish I knew how to quit
Thanks for helping boost our platform.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, thanks.
man.
I mean, I don't want to be too egotistical about it, because I know like some people really probably do get pissed off and then never listen again. But there are some people who say they're quitting and then they don't. Or my favorite over the years, and we've been at this fandom game for 20 years now. My favorite is when somebody writes in with a complaint and they're clearly pissed off in the email, and then we reply to the email and they're so shocked that we replied that they then apologize profusely. I'm like, oh, great. Well, I guess that was worth me replying
And
to.
sometimes we reply privately. We don't even give them
Of
we
course,
don't on
yeah.
air. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we hear from haters every day. We don't have time to
It's just
air all their emails.
we're too nice in
Yeah.
our reply. And they're like, oh, I didn't mean it. It's like, no, you can mean it. Just,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's
It's
the thing.
fine.
That's okay. We're
Yeah.
fine with people disagreeing with us.
Yeah.
That's a-okay. But if you decide the show's not for you, that's totally fine. We get it. The show's not for everyone.
Yeah.
But you can just leave. You don't need to comment. You don't need to post on all of our things and be like, oh, I'm so glad I don't follow you guys anymore.
So anyway, whether good or bad feedback, your reviews do keep us humble. So please keep them coming. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever else you can. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Well, we are going to continue our ongoing series where we're chronicling Trump's first 100 days. I have some bad news for everyone to kick us off. Here on the day of this recording, we are only on day 30.
Oh,
so
wow.
30?
30.
It feels like day 300.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, basically, I feel like you can add an extra 0 to this first 100 days at any point in time, and that'll be about how it feels. But we wanted to actually start off with an anonymous email from a federal employee who reached out to us. And I thought that we could kick off a series of having an anonymous email corner for government employees. So if you're a government employee and you want to comment on the various goings on of your day-to-day work or things that you may be hearing or being emailed or whatever the heck else, you can reach out to us and we'll keep you anonymous. If you want to be super duper anonymous, you can go to millennialshow.com and use our confessional, which will allow you to send this stuff to us truly anonymously. But I thought that we would share this first one we received and use this as a calling card to other government employees to say, hey, if you want to share some shit with us, this is the place to do it.
And I will say, we already received another email that we'll that we'll read in the next week or two from somebody who seems to be tied into the government as well. And that person spoke to a topic that I care about a lot. So we'll definitely get to that one in the weeks ahead.
All right. Well, this first one reads, hey, Millennial, just wanted to email in and provide some of my personal experience of some of these presidential executive orders. I live in an area that was basically built up around a Navy base. The majority of the workforce in the area are federal workers and contractor support. Most of us supporting the base have been on a modified telework status. For example, I was required to go in once a week. You can imagine that this recent rush to get folks in offices has been absolutely insane. We don't have enough seats on base to seat everyone, so conference rooms are being modified to support, or we have to sit off-site without our direct teammates. We no longer have the infrastructure in the community to support the childcare requirements many of us face. Not to mention the impact on the fully remote employees who live states away and are now being forced to make a decision between moving back local or finding new jobs. This person also noted they have many friends who are on their probationary period with the government, which is less than 2 years of service. And I think the intent of including that is it does seem like people who were on that less than 2 years probationary period were kind of at the top of the chopping block for federal employees when it comes to all these layoffs we've heard about. So, anyway, the writer goes on to say, if the point is to drain the swamp, we're hitting the wrong people because I can guarantee you that the crowds suffering are the ones working hardest.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. And that seems to be the general directive, whether it's within this administration or even with Elon running Tesla. It's just like, let's pull as many rugs out from under people as possible, and let's see what happens. And then we'll fix it from there. Elon even admitted last week, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm not going to bat 1,000, he said on camera in the Oval Office while standing next to Trump. they admit they're being messy, and they'll figure it out as time goes on. And this sucks for this person who, well, maybe they don't specifically, but team members suddenly have to find childcare. That's suddenly a big expense.
Yeah.
And it takes time to find the right person or organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not really necessarily that like nobody is ever going to be perfect in any job, right? But the point is that they could at least hire people with actual experience instead of pushing people out to make room for people that don't have any experience at all. Somebody that has experience, like, you know, in some kind of like education or education reform is going to automatically be better suited for the job than some guy that can't even keep Twitter afloat or can barely keep Twitter afloat.
Not to mention, they just make these different changes and then hope for the best, and then they react. They don't think things through. Just take it slow. Instead of rushing in everything, take it slow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, if they take it slow, then it's going to be easier to hold them accountable when things go toes up. Whereas if they rush into it super quickly, it's really easy for them to be like, no one could have ever known. No one told us.
Yeah. Well, and a good example of this is that Doge and Trump purged 50 workers from the agency that maintains the country's nuclear weapons arsenal the other day without realizing they were getting rid of these people. So put some thought into what you're doing. They're not. They're just being like, that looks like a big expense. Let's get rid of that. Let's get people back into the office, et cetera, et cetera.
It's the same with like the executive order that he signed that shut down a bunch of government spending when they didn't mean to shut everything down, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, they don't understand the programs they're trying to gut. And so they're going in with a hammer and then being surprised when they break shit.
Mm-hmm.
This writer did go on to say that they, of course, also received emails about no longer being able to celebrate DEI holidays, and that the specific example given in the email was Asian American Heritage Month. So good to know that they were being so specific about the things you're not allowed to celebrate anymore. But they went on to say, I have to tell you, though, the most frustrating part has been hearing coworkers complain when I know they voted for him. As my friend put so eloquently, I didn't fuck around, so why am I finding out?
Well, at least it's nice to know that people are regretting their vote. That makes me feel good. I can see why you're frustrated, though, because you have to deal with these people, but makes me feel better.
It's mostly the nobody told us. It's like, we all told you.
Yeah.
You just didn't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's nice to know that's a universal experience, or it's becoming one, I guess.
Better late than never.
Ugh. Well, getting on to some other news, and Andrew, thank you for plugging the specific story about how layoffs affected government employees who oversee our nuclear programs, because that was a huge one. But something else I wanted to make sure we get to talk about, I think we're all pretty aware at this point of the Delta Airlines crash that happened in Toronto. Thankfully, nobody was killed. I thought we could talk about how over the long weekend, which is the same long weekend in which this plane crash happened, Trump fired hundreds of employees at the Federal Aviation Administration, a part of the government that is already severely understaffed. We've heard stories for years now about understaffing of air traffic controllers and how understaffing of these jobs has led to a number of near misses. And we're literally laying off hundreds more of these employees in, a function of the government that is already really strapped for resources at a time when planes are seemingly falling out of the sky.
Yeah, and this seems like low-hanging fruit, the opportunity to not fire people, because if, God forbid, another plane crash happens here in America sooner rather than later, people are going to be pointing to these firings. It was 400 people who were fired. The transportation secretary tried to downplay this, saying these were probationary people, so they've been hired less than a year ago. But still, why? What if it's only 400 people? Why was it so important to let go of these people? And I know that I have a cousin who's a flight attendant, and in reacting to the crash yesterday in Canada, she was really nervous. And how are the people who operate the planes, the pilots, flight attendants, how are they supposed to feel when they're seeing firings? Because their safety's on the line too. So I just don't understand the purpose of getting rid of a few hundred people in a team of 45,000 when you know this could very well end up being a bad look for you.
I would worry too that it's just going to force a strike, and we talked about that a couple of weeks ago as well. The sectors of the FAA have been on the brink of a strike for a while, but it all kind of trickles up and down. So
I hope the airlines are prepared to throw their fucking weight around on this, because this isn't good for them either. They don't want mid-air collisions happening because there aren't enough air traffic controllers. Like, come on, American Airlines. And I'm not just singling out that one. I'm just saying American-based airlines who have had their asses bailed out by American taxpayers so many times before. Throw your weight around. Yeah. Actually do something about this. Individuals like us can't.
Right. Well, and talk about bad publicity when photos of your plane upside down and missing a wing are on every page of the internet. And that's what Delta is going through this week. And it's a miracle that nobody was killed. But just, that's all the more reason to throw around your weight. People are going to stop flying. You're going to instill more fear into flyers. Or if they're not going to stop flying, they're going to fly less frequently.
Totally. Well, Andrew, you predicted at the start of the year that Trump would be unable to stop Putin's war in Ukraine. But it seems like the U.S. is actually well underway to helping Russia stop the war by offering no backup to Ukraine so that Putin can just walk on in and have his ownership of Ukraine rubber stamped by us. Mm-hmm. So is that how you saw this playing out?
No, but my predictions tend to be wrong, so I guess I'm not surprised.
Well, so I'll give it to you on a technicality. I don't think that Trump was going to be able to stop the war in any kind of diplomatic sense that would actually benefit Ukraine, who, by the way, is the victim. Russia has been trying to stage this hostile takeover for 3 years now. It's not even the first time. But our approach to this seems to be to just say, well, you've been fighting this war for 3 years and you haven't really made any progress. So why don't you just let Russia have what they took from you and we'll just call it even?
Yeah. All this for nothing, right? That's no big deal.
Right. And Putin definitely won't try to take any more of your land.
He won't be emboldened.
No, not at all. Never mind the fact that he's former KGB. Like, this is the guy who's looking at all of these former Soviet Union satellite states and salivating at the prospect of getting them back. So, no, he's not going to stop. And I don't know, I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking about China watching this play out and just thinking, good luck, Taiwan.
Yeah.
The US has shown how we're going to respond. Something else that I wanted to touch on before we wrap this up is talking about Trump's upcoming tax cuts, how all of that relates to the various benefit cuts that you're hearing about Congress wanting to pass. And ultimately the big trick that they are trying to pull on the American people. So congressional Republicans, for one example, are looking at cuts and possible work requirements in order to receive Medicaid, which provides healthcare to around 80 million Americans who meet the current income requirements for it. Again, this is one of our nation's 2 national health programs, which, if you describe it to like an anti-socialized medicine Republican, if you were to describe the way these programs work without using the words Medicaid or Medicare, they would say it sounds like socialism. So it's just funny how these get a pass. But it's definitely a slippery slope when you're talking about making cuts to that program, but also requiring those, or rather having work requirements in order to receive it. Again, this is healthcare. So my home state of Georgia is one of the only states that has a work requirement in order to receive Medicaid benefits. And in order to qualify for Medicaid here, you have to be making under the federal poverty level, which is about $14,600 a year for an individual. But you also have to be enrolled in at least 80 hours a month of work, job training, community service, or higher education. So that pretty much knocks a shit ton of people out of the running for Medicaid in Georgia based on the work requirement alone. Because if you're a single parent working, let's say 60 hours a week and then caring for your family, where are you going to find time for the other 20 hours you need to meet the criteria for Medicaid?
And Brittany is saying Indiana is trying to pass this right now too. 20 hours a week if you aren't disabled and you're childless.
It's really crazy. And this is really kind of at the crux of everything and really where we want to give a big alert to everyone. They're trying to fool us into thinking that DOGE is eliminating all of this wasteful spending in Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, but they're actually just trying to divert our hard-earned tax dollars away from paying for those things so that they can use them to pay for an extension of Trump's tax cuts, which expire this year. And those tax cuts are not for any of us on this panel or probably for anyone who listens to this show. It's for people like Elon Musk who do not pay their fair share and are given tax breaks out the ass while the rest of us are struggling to make ends meet. To give y'all an example, and this, I was looking at my own paycheck, and feel free to cut me off here if anyone has noticed anything similar. I was looking at my own paycheck around contributions that if you're an American taxpayer, or rather if you work in the United States, you're paying into Social Security. If you have any kind of above the board job, you're paying into Social Security. Individuals have to pay around 6% of their paycheck into Social Security. If you're self-employed, like I know Andrew, you and Pam are, it's double that amount that you're accountable for, because for people like me who have a day job, your employer pays the other half of that. But what this breaks down to is a maximum contribution of almost $11,000 per calendar year that people have to pay into Social Security.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That can change people's lives, that amount of money. I mean,
yeah. And it's crazy because like this is like money we're never going to see. Like we're feeding into a system that is not going to directly benefit us. And we've been knowing that for a long time.
And the thing that's really galling, especially as people who are kind of in the prime years of our careers, and we know we're all paying into Social Security, there's a max, there's a cap on how much of your earnings are taxable for Social Security, and that cap is $176,100. So essentially,
that's so high.
Yeah. So anyone who makes $1 more than that or greater isn't paying that 6% Social Security tax. So billionaires are only paying Social Security taxes on the first $176,000 of their income. Somebody who makes $200,000 and is only doing the 6% up to the 176 number is only paying like 5.2% of their income into Social Security. So as your income increases, your total percentage contribution to Social Security decreases. We should all be way more mad about that than we are about Elon coming out and making crazy ass claims about the waste that he's seeing in Social Security payments right now.
Yeah, it's not like it's also not like those people get any less of the pie either, you know, when the time comes to collect Social Security. But it would make sense if they did based on income, right? So if it was something like, we're giving you a break because we know that you're going to be self-sufficient when you get older and you won't need as much, so we can then disperse that amongst people that maybe don't have enough, then it would I'd be like, okay, like that makes sense. But like something's got to give because it doesn't work that way. So what's the point?
No. And people are living longer, right? They're living a lot longer now than they did when this,
I don't know. I think I'm switching over to Andrew's boat. Maybe like we're living too long. Yeah, I should also duck out at like 70.
What number are you liking? I change all the time. I'm thinking 72 right now.
I was going to say somewhere in the 70s, maybe. Like, what's the point of living to like 100? The irony is that like my family tends to live for a long time. So
yeah, mine too. Mine too, Pam. But I mean, the point at the end of the day about all of this is that they're looking for ways to cut social safety nets like Medicaid, and they're looking for ways to cut the benefits, and they call them benefits that we receive, even though Social Security, it ain't a fucking benefit. It ain't an entitlement. You paid for it. We all paid for it.
Right.
But they keep trying to sort of include it in this bucket of entitlements that they're trying to throw Medicaid into as well, when it's really like, no, if my tax dollars, if I have the choice between my tax dollars going to pay for a poor person to be able to have health insurance versus paying for Elon Musk's tax break, pretty clear choice.
Right. And if I'm paying into Social Security, I don't really see that as an entitlement. I'm not.
No,
it's my money that I handed over for the purpose of getting it back at the, once I retire.
Right. But Republicans love to refer to this as an entitlement, as though that money just falls out of the sky.
I should have never set up Hypable Media as an official business. I should have just, because now I pay into Social Security. It should have just been under the table all the time.
I don't think
Cash
you could have gotten
only.
away with that.
No Venmo, no PayPal, no nothing, no digital records, baby. Cash only.
Just gonna pay us cash.
Yeah, each month our listeners send us, their Patreon pledge via
Laura
mail.
and I just meet you at the border.
Yeah, I do my monthly drive across the country to distribute the cash. It's like drug dealing drugs.
But hey, it's not all lost, right, Andrew? There's something to be excited about.
I like to always present some good news to our listeners. And actually, Pam, this ties in nicely with what you were saying about maybe you don't want to live as long as you thought you previously did. There have been some developments in our universe over the last week. NASA says there's now a 3.1% chance an asteroid will hit Earth in 2032. Now, what's the big deal? 3.2%. Well, this is the highest risk assessment an asteroid has ever received, surpassing 2.7% in 2004. So there's a higher chance than ever we're going to get hit with an asteroid.
That sounds great. Seems like a quick way to go, Andrew.
Yeah, right? So that's 7 years from now, about. That's enough time. We can do a lot in 7 years.
I agree. I mean, it's already been 5 since COVID, so
yeah. What's another 2 after that?
Yeah, we got this. 7 years. Sounds good.
We can have a new segment on the show. So we're counting up Trump's first 100 days, and our other segment, the second half of the show, will be the final down. 7 years of society.
Oh, the theme music will be the final countdown.
I'm invested in this. I've been getting updates in my social media feeds daily about this chance of getting hit. And just the other day, it was like 2.7%. It's climbing rapidly. So everybody keep an eye on this. We'll keep everybody up to date here.
Hope springs eternal, y'all.
Well, on that bright note, we're going to take a quick break. And hey, with only 7 years to go, let's live life like there's no tomorrow, baby. We're going to talk about going to concerts and trying to afford them these days, and maybe how a European vacation is more affordable. We'll be right back. All right, so we wanted to talk about the rising prices of live events. It's gotten harder to attend live events like concerts that maybe a few years ago would have been way more interested in attending, but the greed of the artists and the bookers are shutting us out. And in some related news, some high-profile artists have canceled whole tours because they aren't selling the tickets that they expected. And when speaking with NPR last year, the editor of Ticket News believed that the pricing has hit a breaking point for consumers. And then it's not just the show. You're paying for the parking, the food and drink. I mean, a beer can cost you $20 at an arena these days. There might be travel involved. Gas money, of course, but a plane, a train, a hotel, maybe you need a rental car. Then you go to the merch stand. Oh, it's another $50 to buy a t-shirt. I mean, it's a good $200, I would estimate, for a night out at a concert, not including the ticket itself. So it's just gotten very expensive to have a night out at some of your favorite artists. And I mentioned some artists have canceled shows seemingly because their tickets aren't selling well. The Black Keys, pretty popular rock band, they blamed their tour manager for booking them in venues that were too big, and the tickets weren't selling, so they canceled their tour. Now they're going to be doing smaller venues for the foreseeable future. And then Jennifer Lopez, she was going to go on tour this year. Ticket sales were not looking good. The tour was initially called This Is Me Now, and then they renamed it because of bad sales to This Is Me Live, the greatest hits, but that didn't help them. And what's embarrassing for artists these days is now fans can book the exact seat that they want. They look at a map, they pick their seat, and they get it. That's a nice perk for us, because back in the day, you just hit like, find me a ticket, and it'll just give you something. You couldn't see the seat map. So now we can see the seat maps, but the problem is we can see how well these shows are or aren't selling. So people were screen capping the venues for J-Lo, and I have an example here in our doc. This was Denver, Colorado for this July. You could see that the venue, she was not selling tickets at all. And this was with the entire back half of the venue not even available for sale. So it's kind of embarrassing.
I definitely saw footage from some of her shows, and it was painful.
And then J-Lo and the Black Keys aren't the only ones dealing with this issue. NBC News reported last year that 311 announced it had canceled upcoming European tour dates due to the rising costs of touring overseas, which made completing certain portions of the tour unfeasible. And then other stars like Pink and Justin Timberlake have also recently canceled specific show dates, while the Jonas Brothers recently postponed their upcoming European tour, though none of these artists officially cited financial concerns as reason for doing so. But of course, they're not going to say, oh, guess we're not popular anymore. We're going to cancel this tour. J-Lo blamed, I think she wanted to be with her family, and this was around the Ben Affleck rumors, breakup rumors. So, I mean, that could kind of make sense. But look, you're working with touring professionals who should know how you're going to perform in these different markets.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, I think that's why sometimes people will wonder, like, for example, Paramore joined Taylor Swift through her European leg of the tour, of the Eras tour. And Paramore is a big band, you know, they've been around for a long time. They have a huge built-in audience. And so you have a lot of people wondering, it's like, why would Paramore tour with Taylor? And there's like a couple of obvious, you know, answers you could point to for like reasons, like one, longtime friends, two, maybe they just wanted to tour with friends. But like realistically, it's probably because it's easier for them to hop on a tour like the Eras tour than it would be to try and book their own tour.
Oh, yeah. That sounds like a great idea to me.
Yeah.
Ride Taylor's coattails.
But you see that more and more, like, especially I think, I don't know, I think it's like a little bit different with like punk rock or pop pop rock acts, whatever you want to call it. Like you'll see a lot of times like, you know, like maybe like Green Day and Blink-182 teaming up or something like that to tackle like the European leg. And it's not because like they are not big acts, but it's just because like feasibly it makes more sense to kind of like combine forces and tour together than it would to tour apart and maybe not sell as many tickets.
Yeah.
So it is kind of like, it's weird because then you think like, why would like, you know, like this like big band be opening for this other band, you know, if they're both like equally about the same size, or sometimes it's like reversed, like one band's been around for longer, so they still have a passionate fan base, but then the other band is like more popular. So like the billing like seems like it should be reversed, but it's not. And it's all like basically like touring politics. But I think it all feeds into the same concepts that you're kind of bringing up here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually find it kind of shocking that 311 was trying to have a European tour. Like no shade toward, like I liked them in high school. But I didn't know, one, that they were still a thing.
Yeah.
But two, that like, why wouldn't they team up with another touring artist? Because that seems like they bit off more than they could chew trying to do that if they were trying to do it by themselves.
I just don't understand how they could really screw up their estimates for how they are going to perform in these different markets when you're working with professionals whose job it is to book you in the right venues. But I guess it speaks to how resistant people are to paying these crazy prices for shows these days and everything else that's associated with going out to a concert. Now, meanwhile, Beyonce recently announced her Cowboy Carter tour. And again, extremely high prices. I was looking at the LA shows. Standard ticket prices are listed for $1,000. And that is the all-in pricing. So at least Beyonce was upfront about the all-in price. That means with the taxes and Ticketmaster fees all included. So there weren't any surprises at checkout. So standard tickets in decent seats, $1,000. The cheapest were the nosebleeds all the way in the back of the venue. So Beyonce is going to look like an ant from your perspective, $105. So still a lot of money. At least there are lowish, I'm using air quotes here, to allow people who don't have the money to get in the door. But again, for a place like LA, and prices are comparable elsewhere for her other cities she's touring through, you know, again, transportation, parking, all of this. It's a very expensive night out. I don't know about you two, but I was seeing some TikToks from people who couldn't believe these Beyonce prices. Because of course, with each tour, the cost of the tickets go up and up and up. And eventually they're going to meet some resistance, right? I mean, I know Beyonce's an exception, but
no, but $1,000 seems crazy. That is her, because so this is not dynamic pricing, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because so that is crazy.
Now, here's something that a lot of people are catching on to. The ticket prices in America are nuts. They're out of control. You just mentioned dynamic pricing. That's a huge thing here. Over in Europe, tickets for these same artists are actually pretty damn cheap. And again, talking about this Beyonce tour, one of my friends who loves traveling and researching travel and all that, also a big Beyonce fan, he was keeping an eye on the Beyonce ticket prices in France. They were $105 to $210 for comparable seats to those $1,000 seats in LA. And fees were less or included up front. The only prices over in France that were crazy American prices were $600 to $1,000, and they were right up against the stage. Like you get to touch Beyonce's foot for $600 to $1,000. So in other words, people are realizing you could go on a beautiful European summer vacation, see lots of landmarks, you know, eat all the good food, and see Beyonce for the price of a single Beyonce ticket in America. I've been seeing people do this for Taylor and other artists. Pam, as somebody who follows Taylor closely, have you seen some of your Taylor fans heading over there?
A lot, yeah. And well, amongst the Swifties, this is a point of debate because there are less tour dates in Europe usually. So the conversation then becomes about whether or not it's like morally right for
Oh my
Americans
God.
to like take up space when there's like 50 dates in America versus
We're the
like
country
20
of
in
Trump,
Europe.
baby.
Honestly,
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah,
come and
but
take
like
it.
money
We're gonna
talks. So
we're gonna grab your tickets by the you know what.
It's like a whole thing. Like they really kind of get on their high horse about a lot of stuff. But the reality is that most of them, if they were offered a concert ticket in it, like at a European venue, would probably jump at the chance to go if they could afford it. I guess like the only risk here is that you do run the risk of a show getting canceled. So I would say you might want to look into like the history of the artist. Taylor Swift is fairly reliable. She hardly ever cancels shows. She did have to cancel her Vienna tour date because of a terrorist threat, which is very reasonable, but she'll play in the rain. She'll play when she's sick. You won't have to worry about her canceling a show. So you just want to make sure that the artist that you're going to see overseas potentially isn't like super fickle or doesn't just like cancel willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Because there's always that possibility. So,
Laura, you sound frustrated.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a totally separate rant, but I'm really tired of people high-roading each other morally over stuff like this that doesn't fucking matter. Like,
it's kind of silly.
It's not moral for you to purchase a ticket in Europe because you might be taking a seat away from someone in Europe. Like, we can all buy the tickets. They're available to everyone. If I can enter my credit card on the website, I can purchase it. Please and thank you.
I will say though, like I think she did, like some venues did require like an address, like a European address.
That's fine.
So you got to figure that out. Like maybe you have a friend or a distant relative or something that can do that. But yeah, I think that like if you can pay for the ticket, like you might as well, because again, like all of these people that are like making these complaints are also the same people that would do the same thing if they could. So
yeah. And I will say Brock is pointing out they do get on their high horses, but I know someone who went to 6 European Eras tour dates. I think that's selfish, Brock says. I've had that thought. Some people are going to a lot of shows, even here in America, going to a lot of shows, and you are taking away some seats from people who are clamoring to go just once and can't.
Right. And there's also like, I mean, like the same thing, the same argument was made during the Harry Styles tour, which was more of like residencies in each city. And that's where you got that whole like TikTok meme with the girl being like, I'm finna be in the pit, but she was trying to be in the pit every night for 7 nights in LA. And there are people that are like that. And like that, I think is like, that's a whole separate conversation because like, I do think that like, some people have the luxury, whether because they're like economically or what have you, that like they can camp out for a whole week. Not everybody can do that to go like get, a front of barricade or what have you. So like, there's a lot that goes into the idea of this. But like, at the end of the day, it's like for me, and I don't know if it's because this is just like me getting older or what, and just having been to so many concerts in my lifetime, like, at this point for me, I'm just happy if I get in the door, but Andrew, I'm curious because we know that you're going to go see Bruce overseas. Were those tickets cheaper than they were in the US?
Yeah. Well, and guess what? My friend's buying them for me. Like he offered.
They were the best price.
They were the best price for me. Yeah. He was like, "You're coming all the way over here. I'll cover the tickets." I was like, "Oh my God, that's the nicest thing."
But like, have you ever looked to see if they were cheaper overseas?
Oh yeah, they are cheaper. Yeah.
They are. Okay.
There's the same points brought up about in the Bruce community that it's cheaper to go over there and have a nice European vacation and get a Bruce show out of it too. So, I see the points on both sides, by the way, about, buying multiple shows or taking Americans buying the European tickets. But Laura, your point too, the tickets are available to everybody. If the artist saw a problem, they could probably limit it to European addresses or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's the thing. It's like if we start getting into territory where we're asking large populations of people to exercise self-awareness for what's morally appropriate, no one's going to be happy. So instead, maybe these ticket vendors, maybe these venues, maybe the artists need to be the ones to actually set some rules about geographically, like who is eligible to purchase.
I will say it was kind of shitty to see like a lot of Americans that had been to multiple shows trying to go to shows in Canada because she only played 3 tour stops in Canada.
Yeah.
That's like one of those things where it's like, yes, you can, but also like, don't be a dick. If you've gone like 5 times, like just like let Canada have this. They have 3 tour dates, maybe 5.
Yeah.
Poor Canada.
Just be nice. Yeah. They really got the shaft.
Their seats at the Eras Tour. We're trying to turn them into the 51st state. So
threatening them with tariffs.
Yeah. Although I did hear about there was like one Canadian like government official that was like, why don't we just like take Canada? I mean, why don't we just take California and Oregon and Washington, like maybe a couple of other states? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Like free healthcare.
Sounds great to me
like,
too.
I'll go willingly. Canada, if you want to take over California, that's
hell
fine.
Yeah. So listeners, maybe price out what it would cost to go overseas to see an artist that you love. I don't know if the ticket price differences are as huge for smaller artists, but if you've been thinking really want to see Beyonce or obviously Taylor, whoever else.
Also, what a fun memory to be like, you know, I saw this person like over there. Yeah. And the venues are different. And like, especially for smaller artists, like you might get to be in like a cool, smaller venue. I'll never forget seeing Lorde when I was in New York, and she played at this like tiny little venue called Le Poisson Rouge, which I don't even know if it's still open, but yeah, it was tiny. But
so I mentioned my friend pricing out Beyonce tickets for France. He was like, we should all go over there. I was like, how about a summer in Europe for Andy? He kicks it off in May, and then I'll stay over there all summer to whenever this Beyonce show is. And then I'll come back to America. The only problem is our recording
room
schedule.
And board too, why not?
I know. Well, I got to figure that out. So I need I need to figure out a long-term stay on the cheap.
Well, you're going to want to know where things stand with the FAA by the time you come back too. Cause
here we go again. Here we go again.
Maybe
if I even make it over there, I'll maybe see Bruce and Beyonce.
Hold on. Maybe since you're a cruiser now, you can just take a cruise ship back.
That's a good idea. Yeah. And actually this was in this guy's plans too, a cruise. So I've got 3 big plans. Andrew's big European summer. I'm not actually doing
big fat European vacation. I love that for you.
I'm not actually doing this, but the thought of it is nice. It's nice to dream.
Imagine podcasting from all random places.
I'm podcasting.
Like, Lord, I never know where you are until you hop into the Riverside studio.
Yeah. I'm like, it's 1 a.m. here. I'm ready to go to bed. Do you find yourselves getting pickier, both of you, when it comes to concert tickets now the prices are going up?
Yeah, because I'm not made of money. And also, like, you know, you talked about all these other like expenses that factor in. So it's not just the base price of the ticket, although I think because with most bigger concerts, you're buying the tickets in advance. So like if you girl math it, you're like, well, I already spent that money and that was like 6 months ago. So it's like, it's basically free. And I'm just like paying the extra money up front when I go to the thing. But yeah, like, especially if it's not somebody that I'm like a big fan of, then like, I probably would contemplate like the total cost, even if it wasn't like the cost up front and then the cost later.
How about you, Laura?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I don't go to very many big concerts anymore for this exact reason. I think the last one I did was actually for Juan Luis Guerra back in the fall. And I think I talked about that here on the show quite a bit. And while those tickets were expensive, they were not prohibitively so. And even with that, after you account for the cost of the tickets, I went with my dad. We went in, we each got a couple of beers. Like, it adds up.
Yeah.
And then if you're having to pay for parking, some places cover your parking, some places don't, depending on where you end up parked. Like, it's just, a lot of times it's not worth it, especially if the experience you're getting is looking at Beyonce or Taylor or whoever it is, the size of an ant in front
you're
of
just
you.
Staring at the screen.
Yeah, when
the
you're
whole
like,
time.
oh, I could have waited a few months and just watched like the Eras tour or the Cowboy Carter tour when they inevitably record it and put it up, you know?
And these days, that's to be expected for these big artists, I think. a couple of points I want to make here. So first of all, Riley is bringing up in our Discord, they're listening live tonight, that they wanted to go to Elton John's Yellow Brick Road show in Vegas. It was his farewell tour. But their mom strong-armed them into not going because it would cost too much money and mom wouldn't want to go. That jogged memory for me. I wanted to go to that tour too here in Vegas because I've been a pretty big Elton John fan for as long as I can remember. And that would have been, again, farewell tour. It would have been final time to see him live. But I think I was keeping an eye on prices. Look, $300 for okay seats. I couldn't justify it. And that ended up being live streamed on Disney Plus. So I was like, okay, well, at least I got to see it on Disney Plus. And then, so a lot of people probably know by now, there's this very cool venue here in Vegas called Sphere. And I actually did go see U2 live when they opened Sphere 2 years ago now. And I spent a lot of money on that ticket, but it was a last minute seat release. Front row center. It was fucking perfect. Best seat. It had to be the best seat. So I'm glad I did that. However, now they run this movie in the Sphere called Postcards from Earth, and it's directed by Darren Aronofsky, and it basically shows off the Sphere's screen, and it shows nature and stuff. And the thing is, it costs $100 to go see this damn movie. I'm not going to pay $100, to watch a movie. Yeah, venue's
That's
cool.
wild.
Yeah, and my friends are in the same exact scenario. They haven't been to Sphere and don't want to pay these prices. I totally understand where they're coming from. At least do a locals discount or something. And I did hear from somebody, a tourist who came through and saw this. Postcards from Earth actually just makes you depressed about Earth because the movie starts out beautiful, but then it turns into this commentary on how climate change is destroying Earth. So I'm going to go pay $100 to be depressed. That's okay.
And to be told something I already know.
Right. Well, and then to your point, for that price, you might as well just wait to see if somebody that you're even remotely interested is going to tour through there.
Like Backstreet Boys.
Well, there you go.
Coming soon. We'll see what their ticket prices are like.
Well,
Beyonce did announce
discounted a little bit the longer they're there. So
yeah, we'll see how long they are here. It's interesting. Beyonce announced her tour would be coming through Vegas, but they have yet to offer tickets or specific dates or venues. So people are wondering if she's going to be doing something special here, like a mini residency or something.
That would be cool.
Yeah. And possible to get tickets to, but I can dream. So, okay. I was also thinking, how about these artists throw us a damn bone? Throw in some perks with these tickets. Give us a digital copy, a digital recording of the concert that's professionally mixed after, like a week or two after, we get a free copy delivered to our inbox. How about you include a t-shirt? How about you include a show specific poster? It's got the date, it's got the venue, maybe venue specific art. How about a freaking physical ticket commemorating the night? I think there's so many ways artists could pretty easily throw in some perks that would help justify these outrageous ticket prices, but they don't. They can't be bothered.
That aren't part of like VIP packages that you have to spend more money for, right? Because I think that's the issue, is that they save a lot of this stuff for the VIP packages, and then their creative teams don't want to expel the energy needed to try and like throw the general public a bone to see what they could give them. But you're right. Honestly, like going back to physical tickets is the least venues and Ticketmaster can do. Right? I miss those so much. It sucks that we don't get physical tickets anymore. Even for sporting events, like I think if you go to like, we'll call it like they'll still print out tickets for you. But yeah, I remember like going to Giants games. They always had cool tickets like with the players on them and stuff. And like you would want to save that stuff. It was like a built-in momentum. I know you have your tickets right behind you, Andrew.
Right. Yeah. To my left here. Yeah. Yeah. It's fun. They're fun to collect. I remember I excitedly texted you sometime last year, Pam. I went into T-Mobile Arena here and we had digital tickets, but they did print out a little almost receipt. And I think it was technically called a seat locator. I don't know why they were doing it for this show, but it felt like a ticket. I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting a physical ticket when it was technically a seat locator or whatever.
Yeah, but not on thermal paper because those fade over time. Like they need to be better. Like how much is that actually going to cost them to print out like, real ticket stubs again? It can't be that much money in the grand scheme of what they're making.
No, hell no. Hell no.
But I can also see them not wanting to spend money doing that since everything's digital now.
Yeah. And to be fair, like it is like with Ticketmaster trying to like cut back on, like scalpers buying fake tickets. Like I can see why, like the Ticketmaster barcode changes every like 3 seconds or something like that. It's more interactive, but there should be like, they should be able to just give you a physical ticket in addition to like the digital one. It should just like print out while you're going through
cost them anything.
Security or something.
And as an aside for people who are really missing physical tickets, I think we recommended these a while ago, but if you go on Etsy, there are creators who will recreate physical tickets for you. So it could be a really nice gift idea for someone if they're going to a concert. It could be a good way to present the gift to begin with, like this kind of fake version of the ticket that they then could hold on to.
Or you can add in little Easter eggs. Like one of my friends who went with me to the Eras tour, she made tickets with like the that had like the not only like the seats we sat in, but like the surprise songs that Taylor sang that night and stuff like that.
Oh, fun.
And it like she did a great job, but yeah.
So on a related note, I wanted to share a recent example of consumers pushing back at the high price points. We actually spoke about this on the show in February of last year when I let everybody know that McDonald's and Pepsi had said their bottom lines were being impacted by their recent price hikes. And they had said at the time they would actually be lowering prices. Well, now, according to the Wall Street Journal, some inside Disney believe they've hit the limit with theme park ticket prices. Quoting the article now, some inside Disney worry that the company has become addicted to price hikes and has reached the limits of what middle-class Americans can afford, according to people who have worked on park pricing. Internal discussions over whether Disney parks may be losing their grip on the hearts and wallets of families with young kids have become more frequent, some of these people said. Starting in late 2023, the company's own surveys of Disney World and Disneyland guests found that the number of them planning return trips had ticked sharply down. Disney's domestic parks attendance increased 1% in the fiscal year ending in September, down from the prior year's 6% growth. Per person spending on tickets, food, and merch at domestic parks increased 3% in each of the company's past 2 fiscal years and rose 4% in the quarter ending in December. So I wanted to share this because I've been sitting here waiting for the day that all these greedy corporations finally start seeing resistance. They're all going to keep raising their prices until we put our foot down and say, no, stop, bad Disney. And it looks like people who handle ticket pricing at Disney are starting to see it. We saw it with McDonald's and Pepsi last year. Apparently Netflix isn't seeing it. It feels like they're raising their prices every year at this point. Eventually, we are going to be hitting these walls and this bullshit is going to slow down. We're getting there. I'm hoping we're getting there. So ending on a positive note. And everybody enjoy your European summer vacations with your included Beyonce or Bruce Springsteen ticket.
With all that money you've been saving on McDonald's.
So, pals, we are not a media conglomerate. We're just Pam, Andrew, and Laura. So we need your support to help us keep this show going. And unlike Disney and Pepsi and McDonald's, we have no investors and we don't make a habit out of raising prices.
Yeah, so please become our favorite pal over at patreon.com/millennial. And once you're supporting us over there, you'll be able to listen to our weekly gossip sessions known as After Dark, our podcasting safe space, if you will. And you can do that right into your favorite podcast app. So we make it really easy for y'all to keep up with all of the bonus perks that we have over there on Patreon.
And coming up in After Dark this week, it is time to party, but apparently not at home. Because the internet has been saying in recent weeks that millennials no longer have house parties. So we're going to talk about why that is, why I personally think that's bullshit. And we're going to talk about the craziest things that have happened at house parties that we've been at. And I can't believe people feel this way and don't try to make house parties work because, as we've been talking about today, the prices of going out have just gone up and up and up. Throw a good party at home for a fraction of the price and you'll have just as much fun.
And over on our Patreon, you will also be able to hang out with us on Zoom, get ad-free episodes, hear old episodes of Smart Mouths, listen to recordings of us calling each other monthly like we recently did, and lots more. Patreon offers 7-day free trials and annual subscription discounts as well.
Already in the Discord, we're getting called out. It's because we don't have houses, Andrew. That's why we don't have house parties. Okay, you can have it in an apartment. And I'm going to talk about this because I have people who feel this way in my life, and I think it's absolute bullshit.
What if you just don't want to have people over? What if you're like me and you're like, I don't really want to do a party with people.
I just want to sit at home and podcast.
Yeah.
Well, that's good for you, Laura.
Zoom parties.
Some of us want to socialize, okay? So we'll talk through it.
Ugh.
Maybe convince Laura. If you're an Apple Podcast user, you can just get After Dark and ad-free episodes by tapping into the show and signing up for Mega Millennial. No matter how you support us, we really appreciate it. And time now for some recommendations.
I want to recommend Spot Hero for event parking, like literally any event parking you might need to be searching up before you go to the thing. It's 100% going to be way cheaper than anything that you find day of. And I love Spot Hero. I've used them for years. They make it really easy to book, and you can also see like how far away the parking is in relation to the venue you're going to be at. So you get to decide how much or how little you want to walk and how much or little you want to pay based on how far you want to walk. And they also make it really easy to cancel. Like I think there's been at least like 1 or 2 times that I've had to cancel my Spot Hero reservation day of, and they've refunded the full amount without me having to pay for insurance or anything like that, which is huge. So yeah, highly recommend. The last time I went to a concert was a few months ago to see Bleachers out in Berkeley. And I think I paid like, I don't know, somewhere between $10 and $15 for parking. And
that's awesome.
I just like, and the walk was just like straight through the UC Berkeley campus. I think I walked like maybe half a mile to get to the Greek Theater. Not too bad. So yeah, definitely check out Spot Hero.
Continuing with my book-related recommendations from last week and avoiding Amazon, I want to recommend thriftbooks.com. It seems like such an obvious idea for a website, but I didn't know this existed until recently. Basically, it's exactly what it sounds like. You buy used books online through one easy-to-use platform. So it's kind of like eBay, but specifically for books, and it's not an auction house like eBay is. You are paying one price for a certain condition book. So, for example, I loaded up Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I can get it paperback edition, very good condition for $9. And if I want to save a little money, I can order a good condition or an acceptable condition version of the book. So if you're looking to buy used books, I personally, one of my favorite places are used bookstores. If you can't make it to one, visit thriftbooks.com and buy used.
And I want to recommend a TV show. So it's Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man over on Disney Plus. This is the latest entry into Marvel animation that you can find on Disney Plus. And I really, really like this because it kind of gets back to basics with Spider-Man. And even though you have an awareness that this Spider-Man is also somehow connected, even if it's just like tangentially to the MCU as we know it, they've done a lot to establish that this Spider-Man is not like the Tom Holland Spider-Man, not any other kind of Spider-Man that we've seen before. And they're telling the story differently. You also get to see a lot more friendly neighborhood material out of this version of Spider-Man than you do out of, you know, the more recent Tom Holland editions, where it's clearly a lot more focused on the global affairs related to the Avengers than it is on like New York, like neighborhood safety. So it's really, really good and highly recommend it if you're a Spider-Man fan, or if you're just someone who's looking to learn a little bit more about it.
One thing we like to do here on this show is save our listeners money, and we would appreciate some help back. And there's a few different ways you can support us. You can visit shop.millennialshow.com to pick up official Millennial swag. It's our latest way to support the show and show off that you love the podcast.
You can also follow the show in your favorite podcast app or on YouTube and leave us a review there.
You can leave comments wherever you follow us or email millennialshow@gmail.com. Millennialshow.com is where you'll find links to all of our various social media platforms and also notes on what we've discussed today.
After Dark starts in a moment for patrons and Apple Podcast subscribers. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I'm Andrew.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Pamela.
Time to party!